We were called Ammonite Printing. We'd tackle anything. We were a printing company. We kind of said any job considered. I think the biggest challenge we faced was probably partly because we were all friends, trying to work together and be quite professional and disciplined and get the job done. Sometimes we'd argue, and there'd be other stuff going on because we'd see one another out of school, so there'd be arguments that had kind of come into the company which weren't really related, but then you'd kind of be a bit off with somebody because of that. So we learnt a lot about working together and not getting out of work stuff confused with in-work stuff and not antagonising other people. I think that was the main thing I learnt. I think the way that we learnt such a lot in Young Enterprise was different from what we did at school, because that was all, teachers standing at the front and reading from textbooks, and it was all very theoretical. This was us having a go, making mistakes, but that was the best way of learning. So you're making mistakes, you're learning. That, I think the phrase then for Young Enterprise was learning by doing, but it so was what we did, because you were given the freedom to make mistakes. Yeah, there was the backup there. You wouldn't do anything horrendous, but you thought, actually, no, that didn't work. I'm not going to do that again. You learnt practical things, and you could relate that to actually if you were doing this for real in a real company and making proper money and profit for yourselves. I think we all enjoyed it because it was something we wanted to do. It wasn't something that any pressure had been put on us to do. If we'd have at any point turned around and said, actually, we can't be bothered with this anymore, it's not fun, the teacher would have been fine, because our reasoning for doing it was an enthusiasm for wanting to run a business and learn about that. So I think because we went into it from the start really wanting to do it, we enjoyed it, and it didn't feel like work. It didn't feel like something, you must do this, you must do your homework and do this now kind of thing. I think I learnt a lot about myself and not allowing myself to get wound up and argumentative, and there were some horrendous rows to start with. And then as time went on, we all learnt so much about not letting situations get that bad and not talking about things. If there's an issue, if you're feeling overworked, there's no point sitting there thinking, how on earth am I going to get all this done? Talk to the others. Somebody else can help. Somebody else can take a bit of the pressure off and say, oh, well, I'll do that for you this week and you can get on with this instead. So I think a lot about delegating and working with other people and not letting everything pile up on top of you. I think our highlight has to be getting to the national finals and going down there. And for a kid of 17 to come from a poky little town in Whitby, where you feel so cut off from the world, to be going down there and representing the north of England at the London finals, and you've got Carol Vorderman there presenting. I mean, what a celebrity. We were so excited about going down there. And then there's just this massive conference centre, bigger than you've ever seen in your life. Your teachers are there, they're so chuffed for you. There's all the flashing lights, there's the music, and you're there on stage talking to all these, national bigwigs who are so far removed from your everyday life, and such an opportunity to have that experience that you could not get that not taking part in something like Young Enterprise. Using Young Enterprise at job interviews has been really good, and I've been quite surprised by how many people hadn't heard about it initially. And then when I went on to explain to them what I did and the skills that I'd learnt and the opportunities I'd gotten, going to the national finals and presenting to pretty important business people what we'd been doing, suddenly they stepped back, and from something that they thought was just something at school level they'd never heard of, they're like, wow, that's quite impressive. And you start to tell them the skills that you learnt and how that's useful, and that you are quite diligent. Maybe in my role I was the company secretary, so I was quite diligent with minutes and agendas and being quite organised, and suddenly they see that as a proven skill that you've got a track record in doing that maybe without Young Enterprise you wouldn't have had. If I'd not done Young Enterprise, hand on heart, I don't know if I'd gone into a job that I would think, I'm unprepared for this. But having had that experience in a vaguely business environment, there were definitely things, skills, dealing with people, knowing how businesses operate that I had more than a passing awareness of, that I could then take into the world of work with me. And I guess part of it is some of just knowing the mechanics of how an organisation functions, as in there's someone who's the boss, there's someone who looks after the money, there's somebody who markets the thing. So you have that idea of the different roles in any company, any organisation. So you know who to go to for different things. So without Young Enterprise, I'd have probably been okay, but having had that, then I think that I knew more and was able to adjust more to life out of school.